Good morning, Simon Holden, the Sheriff of Tippingham. With the judge, our traveller is back from Ireland, so we're here on a Tuesday morning. Welcome back from Ireland, Judgy.
Hello, mate. How are you doing? All right?
Yeah, very well, very well. I want to hear all about it. So what we'll do is we'll talk about Ireland first, and at the end, I've got two horses I spotted over the weekend here in Blighty. That
yeah, I think you've got me on the mantelpiece there. I only looked at a couple of races from Sandown on when I got back.
You would have been far too busy to see these, but
yeah.
they're worth mentioning. So let's have a chat about the whole experience, because we've just been talking now about the fact that a few, what I would call Cheltenham regulars, maybe switching allegiance and visiting this one. So, give anybody who's thinking that, give us a review of the whole, the whole kit kat caboodle.
I don't know where to start, really. I mean, it's nearly all a positive experience, bearing in mind, obviously, in terms of attendance, I think it was up 40% from last year. It just gives you an idea. I mean, it's just like value for money is just so much better than going to Cheltenham. I know people. I think Graham Rodway was going on about the fact it's loads of odds on favourites. Well, I don't know whether he's checked Cheltenham lately, and probably a bit of clickbait from his point of view, but. I mean, the racing's brilliant. It's got good handicaps there. It's good racing. I mean, it's sort of like trials for Cheltenham. You couldn't wish for any better. Like I say, you've got good nightlife. There's things to do. Even went dog racing on the Friday evening, just in case I was short of things to do at Shelbourne. I mean, it's just such a wonderful place to go. The viewing's excellent. Slight, tiny issues with going to the toilets, but hopefully they can sort that out going forwards. But I mean, food. I mean, where'd you go, mate? It's just a brilliant experience, real positive, and you can watch everything, which is so good.
How far is the course from, say, the centre of Dublin where people stay?
I'm trying to think. About half an hour cab ride. It's not far. Half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. That was a bit of experience getting back. I had to get a bus and then a tram. But I mean, if you can be a bit better organised as well, you can sort that out as well. Definitely would advise you getting a cab there for sure, and then probably next year might be a bit more idea to wait a little, because there's stuff on after racing. You can watch a band or whatever, and perhaps then give it half an hour, and then sort of miss the big rush, and then catch it then later. I mean, they're ever so not. And where do you go, Si, in England, where you walk into a course and they go, "Hello there," and they say goodbye to you as you leave. Welcome to Leopardstown. It's just. If you go to a course in England, what you're doing here, it'd be, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? So,
and that's just at Sedgefield.
yeah, that's right. But you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, it's just a nice little touch. They do little things like that as you go in. I mean, I wouldn't have a bad word to say about the place, really.
What is it like for viewing? That you get a good picture.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of went up a floor, and you could watch the whole race all the way round. You can go down, obviously, down by the sort of like the fence, if you like, to get to watch the racing close up. Obviously, you can't get as close as some courses, for example, like Plumpton, because they have the ambulance and that go around the outside, so they have to fence it off. Otherwise, there'd be a few more accidents. Otherwise, but I mean, the viewing, watching the race, and you get a real feel for it. And I've got to say, the commentator's different gravy. Jerry, he just builds it in. And they also showed the race from Sandown, the Grade 1 race, and we had the commentary in, from the commentary box almost straight in from ITV. Brilliant. I'm presuming, and it just feels like you were there. And that's when Jerry Colomb took it up. You heard the crowd. They're really knowledgeable crowds, So,
and you get the impression. You get the impression watching it that the bookmakers there are more than happy to take a few quid.
Well, yes, I mean that's right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I went down, saw Simon not there, which was nice. He didn't recognise me without my wig on. So he worked. I think he was working for AK Bets. There's loads of bookmakers. If you want to get a bet on, you can get a bet on. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Let's talk about the racing then. Let's have your first pick, Judge.
Oh, where do you start? It's just brilliant, isn't it? And I'm going to go for probably an obvious one, and it was, I think, pretty sure it was on the Saturday. I was really taken. Obviously, I did tip up El Fabiolo, and it did bank the fourth last, and it was very impressive. But once again, I think recency bias I'm going to come to later on. When you come to Cheltenham, if you just keep backing horses that are impressive on their last run, you're only ever going to back short price ones. And look, Al Fabiola was a big price considering it's only just got beat by John Bon last year. I just, you're looking at the price. How can it be that big? Very impressive, look good, but it's down now to like 2-1 for the Arkle. He is prone to whacking one, and I wouldn't want to do that round Cheltenham personally. So I think he's a very tight price now. But the also obviously that I think you would have spotted as well. I was all over Banbridge. I was a terrific run. I mean, jumped the last fourth, but well off the pace, and all it did was stay on. It's got Cheltenham form when you go there later on in the season, having the fact it's already won over there with 2 miles over fences, but also won the Martin Pike last year as well. I think it's an each way bet to nothing against Mighty Potter when we come to it. I mean, that was an impressive winner later on. But I really like the chance of Banbridge. I think it's the Turners in it, the 2.5 mile race when it gets stepped up. I think he's got an excellent chance. And also, Mighty Potter didn't run well at Cheltenham last year, did get pulled up. So you've got that as a minor worry about a favourite come Cheltenham. Although, like I say, that was impressive on the day. So Banbridge would be my first one, mate.
Yeah, I actually tipped Banbridge and was thinking he was falling out the back of the TV. And then he's such a dour stayer, or he appeared to be a dour stayer on Sunday in a very, very good hot race. I think one of the interesting things you've just raised that I was talking to the Prof about actually is that the people that are putting in anti-post bets now, Gordon Elliott, if we remember, the reason I remember that is because Mighty Potter was absolutely woeful at Cheltenham last year. Tihapu was absolutely awful at Cheltenham. Now, a lot of people are saying that Elliott, he'd just come back, things weren't right, strike out the year. But he'd had quite a few winners in the run-up to Cheltenham.
He did.
I don't think the horses were suffering from any sort of virus. And the first point people are going to have to think is he will take a huge scene to Cheltenham. Many of them will be short prices, not just horses that didn't do the business last year, but ran like absolute drains. And as a punter, are you prepared to forgive a dreadful festival run and look at recent form at other tracks? Mighty Potter is a classic example of this now. The horse was very, very impressive at the weekend, to my eye anyway.
Yes, he
was. But then I have to marry that up with all the people that told me last year that the horse was an absolute certainty, have what you want on it. And I've got to balance the two. And at the prices, same with Tiapu. I know people are saying he's gone over further and everything. Yeah. But that horse was beaten after half a mile in the Champion Hurdle last night.
It was.
Nothing to do with the trip.
That's right.
So, just a word of warning about these. But you're right, Banbridge ran what I call a classic trial, ran a good race, but you start to think, wow, another few furlongs, uphill finish. This thing already proven at Cheltenham is going to grab hold of that hill in March, isn't it? Yeah.
And you think at the end of the day, if the Mighty Potter, the proper one, turns up, you think, well, perhaps he might not be good enough to beat him. I mean, but he got within a 10 lengths over the wrong trip against Al Fabiola, and he didn't jump that well. He wasn't so fluent. I think he was just taken out of his comfort zone. He's normally quite a good jumper, Banbridge.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that go a little bit slower over the longer trip, because let's be honest, the Mullins horse that goes off like a lunatic really took them out their comfort zone, and proper Arkle pace, as I would call it. I think it'll be able to get into a rhythm easier around Cheltenham over 2.5. And I mean, I think he's a genuine 9-2 chance. I think if you played in some multiples each way, non-runner, no bet, I think you'd be hard pushed to kick him out the 3 anyway, and you've got that in all of your each way multiples. So he'll be one of my bankers, I think. And I'm going to come up over to another one, and I think you'd be thinking I'll be taking drugs later on, but I've got another one later.
I meant to ask about that, but right, come on then. Let's move on to another one.
Well, we move on. I mean, where we go. I'm just going to quickly scan a few races. Where are we? I thought Tikal ran a lovely race in the juvenile hurdle. He's got to run one more time for the Boodles. I think he travelled so well. He was given a nice kind ride as he turned into the home straight. I thought the first race, Cool Survivor, ran a very good race for the Albert Bartlett, maybe coming. Definitely wants to step up in trip. Certainly wants to be able to jump a little bit better because it sort of jumped the last 2 quite poorly. I think that was mainly for Tuesday. I've got Cheltenham on the mind, mainly the Saturday. Let's go on to the Sunday's card because I've got my one that's out the back. Here we go. Get my drip. It was on the Saturday. I'm going to my middle one probably won't go to Cheltenham, but I do think it's one you want to line up for a nice handicap. What's called Gatsby Grey. It ran in the handicap hurdle on the card where the short price favourite disappointed. The potential qualifying type race, you know, and I don't think it was a qualifier there, but it is it Maxus? It went off about 7-4, quite a short price after bolting up at the last meeting there. I think it was Maxus. Let me have a look here. Right, Maxum. Yeah, that's it. That went off 7-4 favourite. That's a Gordon Elliott horse, but I think he's hoping it might get dropped a pound or two. But the horse I liked in this was Gatsby Grey, like I say. It was his second run in a handicap, first time at the trip. And it was a hold-up ride. And if you have a look at the running, the first sort of 3 or 4 were pretty much prominent throughout. The winner was Percival Legoir. Don't know if you can say that right, but that was the JP horse that won quite well. Yeah. But I went back on Gatsby Grey's form, and last year this horse came second in a Grade 1 at Punchestown behind Mighty Potter, no less. That was some run, and in behind him that day were 2 really serious horses. Here we go. I'm having a brain fade here, but was Sir Gerhard and Dysart Dynamo. So that was quite a race. So this obviously wasn't a flash in the pan. It's also won a novice hurdle by a long way as well. And I just think this was a really nice run, first time at 3 miles. You can see it at one of the other, either at Punchestown later in the year, and they also have, not know it's Galway, but they have some nice big meeting, Fairy House as well, don't they? Some decent racing. They tend to miss the Cheltenham Festival because I don't think he's going to be per temps qualified. I think he'd be winning one of them 3 mile handicaps. Certainly running well at a juicy price because he was 20 to 1 on Saturday. So that was my second one. And then we could quite comfortably go on to Sunday's racing, he says, if he can ever find it. On to Sunday's racing. And my third one is definitely not one that you'd think of putting in. As they went past us, because they start literally sort of imagine like there and they go past us, these 2 horses went off like scalded cats, Facile Vega and the High Definition. High Definition nearly fell at the first, whacked the first, and they were like 6 or 7 inches clear from the field. And they seemed to go, I said to my friend, and my brother, they're going far too fast here. And obviously in the end, Facile Vega finished tailed off. But I think Facile Vega is a great price now. If he didn't run in that particular race, it would have been even money for the race, wouldn't it? And the reason I do think it's a good price, because the horse that won it was Il Était Temps. And if you look at the previous run, Facile Vega beat Il Était Temps quite easily. So a more sensible ride, rather than going off too fast, would be a much better way of riding the horse. And I think Willie Mullins said otherwise, didn't he? He wasn't very happy with the jockey on the ride. And I can see where he was coming from. They just went too fast. And, it's like if you run like that over 400 or 800 metres as a runner, you just can't go off like that. You've got to leave something left for the tank, otherwise you're going to have nothing left. And you always got to forgive one bad run at the end of the day. So don't forget, he did win at the Cheltenham Festival last year. I think he's 4 to 1 in places. So he's 7. I think he was 5s after. I did have to have some at 5s when I had a little think about things. And you just have a little look. Let's say if that had won that race, what price would it have been? I know it didn't, but if it won that race, it'd been probably 4 to 7, 1 to 2 for Cheltenham.
Well, it wasn't just that particular race. I thought Townend was fairly poor all weekend, and publicly called out. And I would be worried if I was them. Yeah. That they Ruby didn't appear overly impressed on Racing TV either, and he's obviously well up the food chain there as well. Yeah. If I was Townend, I'd be worried that outside the local job centre.
Well, the way Danny Mullins wrote Gentleman to me, yeah. So he's definitely going to knock on the door.
Was a choke out ride, and the problem is with that, once you start running horses like that, they can get into the habit of doing that, and I would be very concerned about that. I do agree with you now that you could argue there's been an overreaction with the price, but his bubble's been burst now.
It has.
And if I was taking him on, I would encourage horses to, if you were Elliott saying you had 3, 4, probably about 6 in that race, I would make sure one of them got very busy early on and see if you could get him at it again.
I wouldn't be happy if he went from the front again. He never did that in bumpers though. He was sort of like, he was held up. So I think it's not a case of the horse being too keen. It just seems they think he's a machine. They thought he could beat anything by doing anything he wanted. So and I think, you know, sometimes you can get overconfident, can't you? Perhaps over arrogant. And I just think they just forgot the basics, really.
Yeah, now Townend's had bad runs before, and obviously he's going to ride a lot of winners, but I'd just be very worried that his boss was very, very public in slagging him off.
Yes, he lost him out. He got caught stuck behind.
Terrible.
I can't complain because I had the winner of that. So
you're buying him a drink. Yeah, I'll just tell you one that I got marked down there, and I thought ran a decent trial for the Albert Bartlett was the Paul Nolan horse, Sandor Clegane.
Yes.
Who got a little bit outpaced, but I just thought then, and it was interesting after that Nolan was very quick to advertise that this horse had one Cheltenham race in mind, the Albert Bartlett, but he wasn't quick enough to run in either of the other novices. But I just think he's the sort of horse, if they go a real pace, he'll be finishing, and he's got a bit of class to him.
Yeah, but he's got the Facile Vega form line as well, hasn't he? So
So Sandor Clegane, I'd be very interested, and also I do like it when a trainer is very, very clear. Not, well, we might go for that. We're in that. We might have a think the week before, whatever. No, he's been very, very clear. This horse has got one target, and as a punter, you like to hear that.
Well, that's right. You haven't got to worry about which race to go for, have you? So, I just want.
The Gold Cup itself. Tell us about the Gold Cup.
Well, that was the opportunity where I managed to sort of like go to the toilet, if you like. I did go back and watch the rerun of it, and I wasn't overly impressed. It was impressive at the end, wasn't he? The favourite, but it just didn't fill me with the Gold Cup winner straight away. To me, I kind of like a bit lukewarm more than I was beforehand. It wasn't as fluent, really, was he, with his jumping?
No,
perhaps they didn't go fast enough. It wasn't a real true test at the trip either, was it?
No, I'm more and more confident on the horse we mentioned, the national winner, Noble Yates. Now, after seeing that, I think he'll definitely outstay this Mullins thing.
I know. Look, it finished well, didn't it? But it wasn't a quick run race. I would like to mention the Champion Hurdle, if I may, because it's quite obviously Honeysuckle went past. I mean, the crowd were going like that, and when State Man went past, they went boo, and it was quite funny. It's like a pantomime, you know. And obviously, after the race, it's almost like Who Shot Bambi? The fact of the presentations afterwards. But I mean, State Man was quite impressive, yes. But I think coming to the Champion Hurdle, if you actually look at the market now, there's 3 runners. Because it's like 33 to 1 bar 3. I think you've got to be on Vauban each way, haven't you? I mean, it pulled really hard. If you watch it, nearly fell at the first, pulled really hard, nearly all the way round, nearly caught Honeysuckle. State Man had everything go its way. Easy on the lead, nothing pestered him, and he had everything go his way. And I think it's like 9-10 to 1. Once again, could you say it out of 3, really? And it's a nice each-way double. It might not be good enough to beat Constitutional Hill, but obviously the Vauban form got franked as well earlier on with a handicap winner. So there is room to think that's not bad form from last season. So
no, it ran well. It pulled very, very hard though.
It did.
I'd like to see that.
No, I mean, you'd hope that. I mean, I was going to think it was going to be a bigger field in the Champion Hurdle, but there might not be because of Constitutional Hill. But you've got to think he's going to go quite quick, aren't you? He's not going to make it a sprint because he's not going to let sort of Paul Townend have his own way on State Man again, is he? So
no.
He runs from the front, Constitutional Hill. So I kind of think he's got a better chance of settling better on Vauban. And I think pretty much most things went wrong, and he still nearly come second. And if you look at his previous run, a very similar run actually. I think it hit the first there as well, and things didn't go right. The difference between the two of them in price is too much, I think. Especially from an each-way angle. Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting the way that market goes on the day, because I think State Man may well be backed.
Yeah.
And it's just whoever dares lay that jolly, isn't it? Who's going to twitch first. So that's going to be a very interesting betting highlight of the first day at Cheltenham.
I agree.
But before we finish on this, I do want to mention, well, it was our HFC club bet on Sunday, and it was a well-named horse, Fun. Because anybody who
you did this on purpose, didn't you?
Anybody who backed that got fun. So what did you think to the bumper?
Well, because obviously I was on Lily de Burley, because I liked her form. She had, I don't think she ran to her best, but you couldn't be impressed with the winner. I mean, she does look a very good mare. She just laughed over them, really. I do think the one I suggested run probably 4 or 5 pounds below its best, but you couldn't be any easier. And I think she probably got to go to Aintree for the mare's bumper, hasn't she? I don't think she'd go for the main one at Cheltenham. I'd be surprised. I mean, especially with these mares, they tend to go for the races for their own sex, don't they? Most of the time. And there isn't. I don't think it's
8 to 1 if she does, and there'll be worse 8 to 1 shots if you can get.
Yeah, there was. I must be honest. I think it's running today. Actually, the Oliver Sherwood mare that's winning at Cheltenham. Yeah. She's running today. So you obviously she's been very impressive on the 2 runs. But it's last year's race. There was loads of decent horses out the race. Ashrow Diamond, horses like that ran in the race last year. It was a much bigger field. There weren't very many runners, were there? It's quite surprising.
I just thought the further she went, fun, the more when she came back on the bridle and everything else was hard at it.
Yeah,
that's what you like to see, a very, very good horse when everything's floundering, and she just came back on the snaff. And I thought up that hill at Cheltenham, if they went a real pace, she would be flying at the finish. But you're right, he was very non-committal about where she's going to be seen next. But then Mullins is very non-committal about everything they ask him about. Don't necessarily think. If Rich Ritchie thinks, you've got to remember as well, Rich Ritchie wants Cheltenham winners above anything else. And if he thinks she's got a chance of winning the bumper, however many other horses he's got in, he's going to tell Mullins to run her, I'm convinced. All right, he wants winners at Aintree, but he wants Cheltenham winners. That's what he's in the game for.
That's right. I mean, I think when you really sort of work things out, I think the key to it, I read something. I think it's a Munir horse. This one's the double green colours, isn't it? Because he had the first and second. But I think, like you say, no matter what, big owners want winners at Cheltenham. But I think you'll find that he can't do the weight, and he bred the horse, didn't he? Patrick Mullins. I think there's a little bit of he's got commitment to the horse, and I suppose but like you say, I suppose it comes down to it. Might run at Cheltenham.
I'm sure they'll get somebody to ride it or about.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I don't know. I think if she turned up, she'd have an each way chance, definitely at 8 to 1. But I think she's more likely to go for the mare's race. Just trying to second guess. Mind you, if you got on non-runner, no bet, it doesn't matter now, does it?
No. So a great,
brilliant. You got to come next year, mate. You got to come next year.
I'm not a great traveller, but we will look into it.
Nor am I.
Yeah. We'll look into it. Right, I picked out 2 on this side of the Irish Sea, which we'll quickly do. And the first one, I don't really pick many during the jump season, many flat horses, but I was really impressed by one on Saturday, and it's called Vale of Shadows. Ran at Kempton. Let me bring the race up. And it was one of those races where Godolphin have a very short price favourite and another contender at a much bigger price. Now, as they're not really a gambling yard, I always chuckle when people say they've had it away and all that. They're not trying to pull any strokes, I can assure you. They put horses in that they think have a decent chance. So this ran on a Friday,
right,
1 o'clock.
I was on my way then, so I
on Saturday.
That. Yeah,
it ran on Saturday, and it was ridden by Jamie Spencer, and it beat a Godolphin hot pot odds-on shot that I know was very strongly fancied. Ran in the 1 o'clock at Kempton, Vale of Shadows. Jamie Spencer took the ride. This was a 3-year-old Frankel mare making its debut. It was obviously very backward last year, and there is so much more to come from this horse. The second is a decent horse, obviously went off odds on. The third horse was a rock-solid Gosden one. This was only a Class 5, but it was much better than that. Now this horse has shown that she's fit and over any issue that she had as a 2-year-old, I think this Veil of Shadows is going to be out again soon. I think that they'll make a bit of hay early season with this. And I could see this being up to like listed level. Very, very well bred. Turned over a horse that was expected to do the business. I think they thought that it was one of those runs, debut, put Spencer on, be in the top 3, teach the horse to race type thing. And it's gone and won. And there is so much more to come from this. As I say, very well bred. Was obviously backward as a 2-year-old. Appleby's got lots to work with it, but I don't see the point of having this put away in its box. And, but it's fit, it's ready to do the business now. There'll be plenty of good early season or further all-weather races to come. So get this one on your tracker, people, because I think she's going to be out again soon, and I think she could be a listed mare. That's Veil of Shadows.
Okay, mate. That's definitely a race I definitely have to watch back now.
Yeah, and you see the interesting thing about eye catchers is when it's a big weekend and everyone's looking elsewhere, that's when you can get that little bit of value and unearth a couple of jewels. Now, what I want to do is go to the bumper at Sandown, the final race that Nichols had an odds-on favourite that everyone was saying, if you're at Sandown, Nichols is going to win the last, blah, blah, blah. Well, he did win the last, but with the outsider into Waterside was the one that won and won well. But the horse I liked that had been very well backed was the Tom Lacey horse making its debut, 10 lengths Tom. It got beat 6 lengths, actually. But it turned over the likely, well, the one everyone thought was a cert. The winner had, into Waterside had won at Exeter in a really early season, looked a bit of a nothing bumper. And obviously Nichols was much sweeter on his other one. Cobden got off the winner and rode their odds-on shot. I think the old Ogden colours. And this Tom Lacey one, making its debut, nicely bred, was quietly backed all day, was very, very green and got too far back too early. But if you watch that race again, it's really finishing. It picks up the odds-on shot, but the leader under Adrian Heskin has gone. There's just no getting to it. And they were all tiring towards the end, sticky ground at Sandown. But this really plugged on. And it's got an ordinary. I've heard that they're thinking about taking it to Ascot. This has got a maiden next Mercy. It could be a decent horse going forward. I think it'll be out again in 2 or 3 weeks from what they were saying after. So get that in your tracker. 10 lengths Tom Lacey trained, and I think we've got a surefire bumper winner next time out.
So I've just scanned that race. I mean, cool. The RPR's recorded. Obviously on the Nichols horse when it won first time out, and then obviously the Nichols winner. That could end up being quite a good race, can't it? Really?
Yeah.
Marks in their 120s for bumper horses. Yeah, that's that
the thing is as well
on its debut.
What if the odds-on shot didn't underperform? What if he just met 2 better horses?
Yeah.
When they're inexperienced horses, people say, "Oh, that flop, that whatever." Maybe it didn't. Maybe that's as good as that is, and maybe the winner is an absolute tool. And this thing making its debut.
It's only a 4-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very green early on in the race. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very hot race going forward. They are my 2 from this side of the
I do think we ought to have a little mention. We had a 4th, didn't we? With No More on Friday.
No More ran his best race. Not that's saying a great
we've got to have a little mention, haven't we?
Best race ever to be 4th at Newcastle on Friday. And we are really, really thrilled. Congrats to Seb Spencer, Swifty, Dale Swift, who rode him, who's done so much work. Jer O'Neill, Joe Wright, the whole team there. Well, that is the whole team there. They have done the business, and we are running again back at Newcastle on Valentine's Day. And you just never know.
Okay, you never know, mate.
A very romantic day for us, couldn't it? With a winner. So, yeah, no more. We're off and running. So, brilliant to see. Right, there we go. We're on the half hour. I was so near yesterday with my double dipper judge. First one, 10-1 second din. First one was second, and the second.
I see you tipped up that general horse. I see they had to give it a wind up. That had some good form earlier. That's a good price. That was. Yeah, well done. So I missed that on my travels. That'll teach me, won't it?
Yeah, 70-1 double that would have been, but we'll get there. And win double dipper today. we kick forward to another busy weekend, and then before you know it, it will be Cheltenham. So we'll be back on Friday.
Weeks.
5 weeks, folks. We'll be back on Friday with HHV the Judge. We'll look at a race on Saturday. Judge did the business on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a nice winning day. Yeah, very good. I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, I thought I was coming 2 out, but you just like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So well done, mate. I'll see you on Friday.
All the best. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Be lucky.
See you soon, folks. Have a great week.